When I was 14, my parents thought it was a great idea to move from Kamchatka in the far east of Russia all the way to Moscow, so I could go to college there several years later. I didn't want any of this because I forced to leave my friends and my hobbies. It was also 1990, the year of a financial crisis in Russia, one of many, and we lost all our savings right after the move. So in my first year in the new school, I was so depressed and I didn't even want to make any new friends. For my 15th birthday, to get me out of my sadness, my dad suggested going on a camping trip. Most girls, they want a dress or a pair of shoes for their birthday, but for me, a chance to climb the tallest mountain in Europe, it was the best present ever, since I was already an experienced skier and climber after living in Kamchatka for 14 years. We joined a group of adults with teenage kids on a month-long camping trip around the Caucasus Mountains. We walked a lot daily, carrying huge backpacks, slept in tents, and bathed in rivers, climbed mountains, and visited tiny villages looking for food to buy, since we didn't bring enough for 15 people for a month. One night, a mountain goat visited my and Dad's tent. We were already high in the mountains, with brains slightly deprived of oxygen. So I woke my dad up and I screamed, "Dad, Dad, look, it's the devil!" Dad sighed, threw a shoe at the goat, trying to make it leave, and then he gave me some aspirin so I could stop hallucinating and get some sleep. I was excited for my 15th birthday, as that day we were supposed to climb Elbrus, the tallest mountain in Europe, my dream. However, a strong storm started at night, which made it impossible for us due to winds and bad visibility. By then, we were staying high in the mountains in small wooden houses for climbers, and the lack of air again played games with my mind. I told my dad that since my previous year had been so crappy, I absolutely had to do something fun and important for my birthday. So I was going to climb to the top despite the bad weather, even if I had to go by myself. He shook his head and didn't want to argue. I woke up at 6 in the morning and I saw electric cables lying on the ground, and there was no electricity after a massive storm, but even that didn't stop me. I grabbed a flashlight, put on my crampons, and took my climbing stick while others were still asleep and started moving up by myself. Good thing Dad woke up just half an hour later, went outside and saw me, since I was moving slowly with my heavy equipment and could barely breathe due to the same lack of oxygen. Being a talented semi-professional opera singer with a loud voice, my dad screamed, "What the hell are you doing? Come back!" And I heard him clearly, so clearly. His voice actually echoed back at me a couple times. But I kept going with tears in my eyes from all the physical strain. So Dad had to run up the mountain with other men to catch me and bring me back. I was crying so hard, screaming that my birthday was ruined and my life was ruined. So to make me feel better, my dad cooked an amazing dinner. We even had some caviar, and he allowed me to have a glass of wine. He said that if I thought that was the worst day of my life, then it could only get better from that moment on. He told me to look forward to going home to a small town near Moscow and to a new school. On the way home, we stopped for one night to visit my sister in the same area, and that's where we saw on TV that President Gorbachev was being held hostage by the Black Sea, and the new government seized power. That was the coup d'etat in August 1991 that started the collapse of the Soviet Union. And even though the coup wasn't successful, it still started a completely new page in our country's life. Then we embarked on our long 36-hour train ride home, not knowing that our life was about to change forever, and we were to go back to a completely new country. We spent the whole time on the train listening to the news on the radio nonstop. Being only 15, I didn't understand half the political game, but being almost as lost as I was, Dad still managed to keep my mind at peace, distracted me by stories and games. When we arrived in Moscow, we were greeted by tanks and crowds and black smoke everywhere. I said, "Dad, what's going on? You promised that my failed climb was the worst thing to happen to me in my life, and things were only supposed to get better." He reminded me that we were all still healthy, he and Mom still had jobs, and no matter what political changes, we were still going to survive at all. I knew I could trust his words, because not only did he live through World War II, but also always had to work hard in scientific research to raise his big family. I have 3 sisters. No matter what problems he had to face, he always found ways to solve them, thus making my childhood happy and safe, even when we didn't have a lot of money. The month after that fateful August 1991 ended up being quite difficult, but my dad did his best to help me get adjusted to my new school and come up with college choice ideas. He made sure I was busy with studies and didn't watch too much TV, and always reminded me that he had my back. We took more trips later, but for both of us, this one always remained the most memorable trip together, and it surely made me a much, much stronger person, mentally and physically. So that year made me grow up quickly and taught me to be prepared for anything in life. Sadly, Dad passed away in 2004 when I was only 28 and he was 70. But I keep the strength, care, and optimism that he provided me with close to my heart. And I always remember that no matter what happens in life, we will survive. Thank you.